So I was asked in this comment here if the Russian join method works instead of just knotting the yarn together. When you need to add in more yarn, works through the Sentro knitting machine. And I love getting questions like this because I'll try it out and see if it works. So I will show how to do the Russian join method, or you can skip to minute 7. But what you need is when you go to join the yarn, is I already have my yarn on my machine and now I just have a little bit left. I need to add more. So I get this extra ball of yarn that's in the same color. We put it on our needle and then we're going to go through the plies. And so I kind of untwist the yarn with my left hand and I'm holding the needle with my right hand, and you're kind of twisting the plies around the needle so then it wraps around the needle. And this kind of just takes a little bit of time to do this, and I'm kind of slow at this. I'm not very proficient at doing the Russian join. So, and I know there's other ways to do it. Some people go over and under each ply. I've seen it done that way. I think this one looks a little bit cleaner because in the end, it's going to add a little bit of bulk when we join the two strands together. And so I thought this way looks the best, but however you do a Russian join, you can do. You want to get a little bit onto the needle so it has enough to be able to grab and hold it in place when we're done. And you kind of just squish it down on there like this. And this only works with ply yarn. So each of those little strands is considered a ply. I think there's either 4, I think this is a 4-ply yarn. And so that's what you need to be able to wrap it around. So once you have enough on there, I like about that much, we're going to push those plies over to the end off of the needle, but you want to keep that little end loop. Do you see that? We're going to pull the tail out and I have this loop. You want to keep that loop there and then just push all of these little strands onto the yarn and off of the needle, but keeping the loop. So you don't want to pull too hard. And it just takes a little bit. And then we're going to keep pulling. And you just want to make sure you don't snag any to get it off. Once they're off of the needle, now we just need to pull the tail end yarn. So I'm holding the loop because we want to keep that with my left hand. And then I'm trying to figure out which one is the tail end, and it will kind of give. And then you're going to pull that tail end and make sure you just don't get rid of that loop on your other end on the left side. So now the tail end's off. Now we can remove our needle. So there's our first part. He's all done. And so now we're going to do the second part with the yarn that's left over on the machine. And so you want to do this when there's still a little bit that you have to work with. So I'm putting it on my needle. And now we're going to thread it through that loop of the one that we just did, that we want to add to it. So that's the most important part. You have to do that. Feed it all the way through. And now we're going to go back. So now here it is on the loop, right? To the yarn we want to add on. I have my needle in my right hand, and then I kind of go over, making sure you can see real well. And so you want to go over towards your working yarn, not towards the tail, and then we're going to do the same thing. So once we go over, we're going to again start untwisting the plies to get the needle in between the plies of the yarn, and we're going to do the same thing. I keep twisting it open and then pushing the needle through in the middle. And I'm just keeping this all in real time so you guys can see how it's done in real time. And then, but if you want to like press and hold on either side of your screen with your thumb, you can speed up the video. And we just keep doing it until you get as much as you feel that you need. You just don't want to do too little. And so a good little bunch like that. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the little plies that are on the needle and we're going to push it up and over the needle onto the back of the yarn where the tail is. Once that's off, now we just need to remove the tail. And so you just got to pull on the side where your needle's at. Just figure out which side of the loop is your tail. And we want to pull it out and through so we can get rid of our needle. So I think it's this one, and you'll kind of feel it give if it's your tail. And you just want to be gentle so it doesn't all come apart on you. Okay, now our tail's out. And so now the two are joined together with the two loops, like that. And then we're going to take the two ends and we're just going to kind of spread out those plies along the length of the yarn. And then you can kind of pull on either one of those tails to kind of tighten it all up where the joint is. And you can see it adds a little bit of thickness, but not a ton. And so there is our Russian join. And then once and I'm kind of pulling on those tail ends too to make sure it's all tight. And then once that's done, you can cut off any excess of both the tails. And so there it is in the middle, and here's our side. And then I'm just gonna cut, and make sure you cut the tail end, don't cut the wrong end, or your project yarn. You just want the tails to come off. All right, so now the tails are off, and so now we have just like one thing of yarn. So I already had worked probably about 50 rows on my machine. So I already worked about 50 rows on the machine, and then I added some more. So now there's my Russian join. It's coming up, so I'm going to zoom in here for you. And I turned on the sound. So I thought it might get caught in the yarn tensioner, so I took it out of there and I just held it with my hand and did the tension that way since it is thicker, because I had it in the middle hole. And now it's going through the needle, so you can kind of hear it and feel it since it is thicker. But it did seem to work okay, so that's why I turned the sound on so you can hear that. And then it started going around again just fine. When I would get to where the Russian join was, you could hear it a few times as it was going through. But then after I got past that point, it seemed to work really good. So it didn't hurt the machine. This was a number 4 medium weight yarn that I'm using. It's the Big Twist Value brand. I think if it was thicker, number 4, it might not work. So that might be something too, because since that Russian join, it adds the thickness to that. So you probably will have to look at that. A number 3 yarn, I think, would work really well, or the thinner number 4s. So I'm going to finish this, and I'm going to make a beanie hat. I'm going to make like a child-sized beanie hat. I did about 94 rows, and I'll show you how it looks. So here it is, and it's right there. You can barely see it. I feel like, if it was different color, you would definitely be able to see where it was. But if it's the same color, you can more feel it than anything, and I can definitely feel it more on the purl side or the inside than I can the outside. You can kind of see that. I definitely can feel it. But on the outside, I think it looks really good. It's right there. I kind of lost it. So I'm going to put a stitch marker where it's at, and I'm going to make the beanie hat real quick, and then we can see it once the project's complete, what it looks like. So here's the project done. My stitch marker is where the Russian join is at. And so I'm going to take it out and kind of give it a little stretch to get it all put together. I mean, I definitely don't feel like that yarn's going anywhere, which is really nice. It would just be, do you like the look of it versus the knot? And go around, there it is. It's right there. So you can barely see it just on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches right there. I feel like it's more you're having to look for it. So there's the Russian join, what it looks like made up in a project. This is another hat I did. The knot's right there where I changed colors. Now this was 2 different colors. You can again feel the knot But I'd say it's up to you. What do you guys think? Do you like just the regular knot, or do you like the Russian join? Let me know.